Hello, hello, anyone who watches this today. It is Monday, so back for another week of Beyond the Gates. Shout out to Exotic Butterfly already in the chat who's supporting despite a work meeting today. Thank you. Hopefully, work is going well. Hello, Phoenix Rising, who is excited for this week's show. Honestly, me too, for the first time in a very long time. It should be quite a good week because we're at least going to have action in some ways. Maybe some stories moving along. Hello, Diane, who is also excited for this week. As usual, I will say that my Paramount Plus stream is usually a minute behind CBS, and I will be typing notes, but mine is beginning with the recap of last week. Hello, Aaliyah Hunter. Welcome back. Danny crying about Andre in the recap. Well, crying to Andre in the recap. Andre might be crying about her soon. Hello, Cassie, who says this is going to be a great week for the show. I'm speaking it into existence. I hope you're right. Although I don't know if it's a great start starting with trash. Let's see if we're going to get the Impaler. Not her cloak. Well, I guess it is what it is. Hello, Franco. Welcome. Aaliyah says it's Joey's sister. Hello, ATC. Cassie says, is it me or was the reveal underwhelming? Of course it was underwhelming. It was a bad built story. Character we don't know. Philly Fashionista says Bridget. She did play Bridget on Bold and the Beautiful. Yes, Franco. Hello, Miss Blue, who says Joey's sister looks like Death. She was dressed like it. ATC says the air was let out of my balloon. Bobby Wobby says I'm disappointed, so Joey and Heather is going to take over the show. I hope not, because that will be annoying. Franco says, dang, I need to see how she looks like. It was just her attire that was dramatic. Well, this is how Leslie's gonna plot her way into the fundraiser, I assume. Aaliyah says Leslie is always eavesdropping. Yep. No, Franco, her hair color's like light brown, I think. Definitely not gray. Bobby, are you talking about my audio? It says it's on. Hopefully it's on. ATC says, okay, so not impressed with the reveal. I wanted it to be someone we knew. Yeah, that's why it's underwhelming because like we don't know this character. Joey's talked about her a little bit. Aaliyah says, so we're supposed to believe Joey's sister is the Impaler. I guess. I guess. Aaliyah says, I could see her and Vanessa getting into a fight. I mean, I'll like her if she beats Vanessa's ass. That's one way to make me like her. ATC says she's coming in the Impaler's place. It's still Carlton. No, I doubt it. At least the story they tried to set up is that she just wanted to prove herself to Joey's father, or both of them. I don't know. Hello, Z Hicks, who's still thinking it might be Carlton. I don't know. Not after this reveal. Also, it never made sense that Carlton would be the Impaler and be ahead of Leah, even though Leah was ahead of him at the hospital. Hello, Dee Dee, who says, so she walked in looking like Kanye. Unbelievable how all private conversation is so public where everybody can hear the conversation. Yeah, that's a soap opera staple, though. Well, Leslie already got all the information she needed. I mean, Isaiah and Jacob need some brother time. Z Hicks says Leslie dressed so stylish, she'll crash the fundraiser for sure. Oh, for sure. That's going to be her whole plot today. It's probably going to be the story thread of the day, other than the Impaler. I would have preferred they sent Joey's ex wife. Alrighty. Aaliyah says yesterday Danny was depressed. Now she's out in hoe clothes. I guess the bath that Andre suggested chippered her up very quickly. Dee Dee says the writers will make sure she's there. Leslie is there. Oh, Leslie will be there. Bobby Wobby says, so she the next to the highest. You're talking about like right below Impaler? I still think she's the Impaler, but Aaliyah says they're really pushing Joey to the forefront. They have been all year. Hello, Kaiwan. Welcome back. Z Higgs says Heather and Leslie dressed in black. Kaiwan, no, it is Joey's sister. I don't know about Joey's ex-wife. But I would have preferred an ex-wife over a sister. I think that would have been more dramatic. Dee Dee says, I mentioned that they were sending the next person under the impaler. That's just Joey's assumption. I think he's assuming that they sent his sister when she might have just sent herself. ATC says, so now we have Joey, Vanessa, Ashley, and Heather's show. Yeah, CBS must be getting what it wants. Dee Dee says, I can't believe she's the impaler. I didn't hear that, Dee Dee. I just heard Joey assume that after she arrived, not before. Because Joey even said that he was expecting the impaler. ATC says, I hope Heather doesn't like Vanessa. That's, I guess, one way to make me like Heather. as if she doesn't like trash. Oh my god, Ted's gonna be becoming one of my least favorite characters. He's definitely in the running. I'm sick of his foolishness. Philly Fashionista said, "Did you notice that massive black jeweled gangster ring she was wearing? They must be setting the stage for something big. Will Joey be forced to kiss the ring? I'm sure that's what she wants." Oh my god, why? Why must I watch trash? Kaiwan, it's not his ex-wife, it's his sister. Maybe she's not the Impaler. She is the Impaler, told you. Bobby says, Joey going to pay for laughing at her. I'm down with that. I mean, I am going to need her to boss up more by the end of this episode if she's supposed to be the big bad. Dee Dee says, I still can't believe she would be the Impaler. Not happy with that. That's kind of the way they've written this whole storyline, Dee Dee. Aaliyah says, did anybody else bust out laughing too? I can understand why Joey busted out laughing. I'm sure he was expecting someone bigger and better as well. Dee says she's supposed to be dangerous. That's why I said she better boss up by the end of this episode. Hello, DGF. Welcome back. ATC says, I didn't laugh, but Big Bad Joey better think a while. I think another problem with the reveal is that they're always telling us instead of showing us things. You know, they've told us how big and dangerous the Impaler is, but all it's resulted in is Derek's accidental death. Dan says, I don't think she could run that business from London. I mean, if she has enough money, maybe. If it's that big of a network of criminals. But with criminals like Leah and Ren, I don't know. Didi says, maybe if she was older, we'll be able to buy it a little. His sister will have to prove something to her big brother. Bobby says, maybe she will impale Joey. Maybe. Preferably trash. I'd like her to impale trash. ATC says, you're right. She should have had her henchman in the room with her. Yeah. Franco says, I was hoping her name would be Mama Rose. I don't get the reference. Those fries look stale. Once again, somehow Jacob's history with him, Derek, Ashley, and Naomi discounts the time that Naomi and Haley were just such good friends. That's going to need some better building. What's up, Devin? No sign of June in June thus far. Bobby says the budget is very low for henchmen and goons. Oh yeah, sorry, I don't know the have and the have-nots. Yes, Devin, I'm writing a novel. Cassie says, I'm ready for Martin's fundraiser. Yeah, me too. I agree, Didi. Danny does look great. Miss Blue says the actress who played Leah should have been casted as Joey's sister instead. I honestly don't mind the casting. I just wish that the story was a little better right now. I don't know. I'm not taking her seriously as the big bad, but I wouldn't have taken Leah seriously as the big bad either. I don't know how Leslie has so much to contribute to the fund part of fundraiser. The only way Leslie could keep all this money from her fund and still have more after spending so much as if she's like in a 1992 economy. Kaiwan says, shouldn't Leslie be busy running her own free clinic? She makes everybody else run it for her. Devin says Leslie must have gotten 100 million from Anita. She must have. That's how they're acting. Even though I'm pretty sure they originally said 8 million, but she would have went through that a long time ago. Even though I know she's supposed to get a few payments a year or something, but nonetheless. Dee Dee says, so she appears to be a lot younger than Joey. Let's see how old the actress is. Yeah, she's 49, so she's definitely got 2 decades on Grandpa Gangster. Well, ATC Leslie's must have gotten a lot of installments already. Devin says the Shouts would have broke the million mark. Yes. Franco says they need to make a storyline where Leslie loses all her money. I totally agree. That has to be what they do to fix that character. A lot of you have been saying that she needs to lose money and scheme to get it back. Then she would at least have a point to her character. Dee Dee says so again, unbelievable. I mean, Heather had time to build an empire if she's around 50. ATC also wants a storyline with Leslie losing her money. Devin says John Lindstrom is 68, my grandma is 65, and that's why he's Grandpa Gangster. Aaliyah says, I want Leslie to go broke defending herself in court for attempted murder of Laura. I mean, I don't think that would make her go broke if she has all this money for all this other stuff, even though I know these lawsuits are expensive, but are they more expensive than a Shouse in Fairmont Crest? Dee Dee says, I need to stop donating to the fund for Leslie. Why didn't they ever say how much money she received? Because they want to keep it ambiguous. Hello, Paney. I mean, do you want me to say who the Impaler is? Hello, ATC, who says, I don't know what it is, but Andre gets on my nerves. I like Andre. Hello, Kathy, who says, I don't know why they gave Leslie $1 billion. It seems like a billion. Phoenix Rising says, not watching, but based on what you were saying, I'm thinking Leah is a more believable Impaler. Carmen says, maybe the IRS will cut up with Leslie. Maybe. Franco says, I need Leslie broke and sleeping in Tent City where June used to be. I like that idea, Franco. Send her all the way down. DGF says, I can't believe John Lindstrom is only 68 because he seemed like a grown ass man when I was a kid. Dee says, remember Leslie said she was richer than Ted? Yeah, that's what she said. But it's still an ambiguous amount of money. Bobby Wobby says, yes, Leah is a more believable Impaler. They're really beating the drums here with Andre in this scene. That what he found with Danny is so real. Later, Devin, catch you later. Leah says, you would think we would get to see Joey's fabulous kitchen. Yeah, he's such a cook. Or chef, even. Franco says Andre is boring. He's boring now. Him and Danny are both boring now. But he was a good baby face there for a while. All I want from this show is Vanessa dead or in prison forever. I'll take Tomas on 3 times a week if they kill off Vanessa. Franco says they should make Andre have an affair and make him interesting and not with Ashley. Well, Danny's going to beat him to that. I wish they'd all leave Vanessa alone. Leave her alone with Joey. It's what she wants. Just crawl up Joey's ass. Her children and friends could all be gone. I was always upset they never followed up on the scene where Danny and Doug ran into each other getting drunk at the bar. Aaliyah says the truth Danny just kicked to Vanessa was real, but she never wants to hear it. Kaiwan, she is stupid and selfish. DGF says, I just thought about another iconic villain who was truly scary because of the actor's charisma, Mitch Lawrence on One Life to Live. I need for the Impaler to be this scary. She's not going to be no Mitch Lawrence, at least not Mitch in his original 80s form. Franco says Andre and Chelsea. I'd be down for that. It's not like they give Chelsea and Madison any screen time together. Frank, I don't know if she's supposed to come back, but I always assume that old Allison would come back. DGF is not shaking in her boots. Me either. Jocelyn says this just seems totally stupid. You talking about the Impaler, I assume. Let's see if they have a good ending today, at least. Z Hicks says too many unsolved storylines. They do need to learn how to bring some storylines to an end, at least to a certain point, before pivoting off of that story. Bobby Wobby says she might be the first female on this show killed off, and Joey will be mad at the police. If she is going to be killed off, I don't see it being anytime soon. DGF says it's weird how June, Madison, Tomas, and whoever else I've forgotten because of lack of screen time have not been seen since the cotillion. True. They really need to find a storyline for June. I'll only accept Tomas if they kill off Vanessa. Aaliyah says, well, Heather did say part of the intrigue is everyone assuming the Impaler is a man. Yeah. I can't believe they're eating those nasty looking great value fries that look stale. Jocelyn says Joey's girlfriend wants to be a gangster. Now his sister is a gangster. Too stupid for me. The Vanessa thing is much stupider. I don't really get her MO. I mean, at least Heather grew up in the environment. I think the only payoff to the story is Vanessa dying or going to prison. Aaliyah says, yes, June's baby daddy could come to town. I'd be down for that. Aaliyah says, Leslie's going to be begging for tickets for the whole show. Probably tomorrow's show, too, knowing Leslie. Yeah, Leslie going to be begging someone else for tickets. Thank you, DGF. Glad you enjoyed my Love Island review. Are you watching this season? Looks like Joey's place is right outside of our favorite alley. Doc Backhand said Trash is extremely thin-skinned with Danny. Danger Will Robinson. Trash doesn't want to hear the truth ever. DGF says Vanessa's really giving Barbie doll today. The only thing that Vanessa gives me is a headache. Z Hicks says Leslie will get a ticket from Eva or Ted or just cruise her way in. Yeah, she'll probably just cruise her way in, knowing her. I'm glad Eva shut her down for now. But knowing Eva, she's very wishy-washy. Who are your favorites, DGF? Hello, Company Confidential. Welcome back. How are you enjoying today's episode? ATC says Leslie on her way to Ted's office. Yeah, you're probably correct. Because if there's anyone that's going to be pushed over by Leslie, it's that fucking idiot. Company Confidential says it's anticlimactic with the Impaler reveal. It is. Yes, Kaiwan, the inhaler is indeed Joey's sister. Company Ted is an idiot. Bobby says, so the writers didn't have Joey talk to Heather about the shootout and how Derek got killed. True, good point. Doc Backhand says, filler Monday after the Heather reveal as Impaler, potential for decent storyline, but I am not holding my breath. Assumption that the Impaler is a man is a nice cover for her. They got a long way to go with this Heather storyline. Well, at least Danny showed up instead of Leslie, but it's still possible. ATC says, I'm sick of Vanessa trying to be a gangster girl. Good idea, DGF. Hold off on your favorites on Love Island because it will change. Leslie gonna find a way to crash it. Nope, Doc backhand. I think it's just Young the rest is on Beyond the Gates, not vice versa. Well, Leslie got all this money. And I don't know if that had to be our cliffhanger. Well, that was our Monday episode. I do hope the rest of the week will be get better. As Aaliyah says, tomorrow our adventure begins. Yes, I do think the rest of the week with this whole crossover should be more exciting. Cassie says we are off to a slow start. It has to get better the rest of the week. I'd like to think it will. I do think the best episodes will be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, though. It'll be the opposite of the cotillion week, where I feel like it started good and then ended but poor. I feel like this week's going to start slow and then be chaotic the last three episodes. But that is it for me today. Thank you all for joining me today. A lot of you today, so I appreciate it. Thank you, Phoenix. Enjoy the rest of your day too. Hello, GB. I will be going off to record my review and next, so I will see you all later, and I will be back tomorrow.